Good morning, automotive enthusiasts. If you're settling in with your morning coffee or catching up during your commute, you've picked the perfect moment to tune in. I'm Steve.
And I'm Claire, and we're part of the Auto-Agentic team. Today's episode is absolutely packed with game-changing developments that are reshaping our industry. We've got exclusive insights on major announcements from the world's leading automakers, dramatic market shifts, and some fascinating technological breakthroughs that are going to change the way we think about mobility.
You know, Claire, in my 20 years covering the automotive industry, I've never seen so many significant developments converge in a single month. April 2025 feels like a genuine turning point.
Let's dive right in with the biggest news. Tesla just confirmed some major developments that are going to shake up the market.
That's right. Elon Musk made a pretty significant announcement during their Q1 earnings call. Claire, what caught your attention from his statements?
Well, there are two key points here. First, Musk announced he's scaling back his government role to focus on Tesla, stating, and I'm quoting directly here, "My time allocation to the Department for Government Efficiency will drop to 1 to 2 days a week to ensure Tesla remains laser-focused on overcoming current challenges."
That's particularly interesting given Tesla's recent performance numbers.
Exactly. They've seen a 71% profit decline and 9% revenue drop. But here's what's fascinating. Musk emphasized Tesla's strategic advantage in dealing with the current trade environment, noting that their localized supply chains in North America, Europe, and China position us better than rivals to navigate trade barriers.
And speaking of market performance, let's look at the broader industry numbers for April. J.D. Power's latest forecast is pretty eye-opening.
The numbers are significant. We're looking at total sales of 1.519 million units for April. That's a 10.5% increase year over year. But what's really interesting is that consumers are spending a record $55.8 billion on new vehicles.
And there's an interesting story behind those numbers, isn't there?
Absolutely. We're seeing what analysts call a pull-forward effect. Consumers accelerating their purchases ahead of expected price increases due to potential tariffs. In fact, Cox Automotive estimates an additional 139,000 sales in April specifically due to these accelerated purchases.
Let's break down how different manufacturers are performing in this environment. GM has been making some interesting moves.
They really have. GM posted a double-digit sales jump in Q1 2025, which is impressive considering the broader market challenges. The Chevrolet Equinox in particular saw an amazing 84.9% year-over-year growth in March.
Meanwhile, Volkswagen's been making waves in Europe. They've literally doubled their EV sales compared to last year.
The numbers are impressive, 150,000 EVs delivered in Europe alone, and globally, their sales are up 59%. That's pushed their global market share from 6% to 10%.
But the real story might be BYD's aggressive expansion plans.
Right. They're projecting to double their European sales to 186,000 units this year, with a target of 400,000 by 2029. And they're doing this with some pretty aggressive pricing strategies.
Speaking of pricing strategies, Jim Farley at Ford made some interesting comments about their approach to the market.
He did. While these comments are from late 2024, they're proving prophetic. He said, "Our future hinges on developing scalable, affordable platforms with distinct Ford DNA. It's the hardest thing we've done in 120 years." He also emphasized moving away from what he called boring cars.
Now let's talk about what might be the biggest technological leap we've seen this year. CATL's recent announcements from their Super Tech Day.
These developments are genuinely revolutionary, Steve. Their new Freevoy Dual-Power Battery is achieving something that seemed impossible just a few years ago, a maximum range of 1,500 kilometers or 932 miles on a single charge.
For our listeners who might not be battery experts, can you break down why this is such a big deal?
Think of it this way. This battery system uses what they call a dual-core architecture. You've got two distinct energy zones working together, a main zone using high-density NCM chemistry, that's nickel, cobalt, and manganese, and then this innovative range extension zone with self-forming anode technology. Together, they're achieving 60% higher volumetric energy density and 50% higher gravimetric energy density compared to conventional batteries.
And the charging speed is equally impressive.
Absolutely. We're talking about adding 520 kilometers of range in just 5 minutes. That's actually faster than filling up a traditional gas tank. But what's really interesting is how they're offering different configurations for different needs.
Right, they've got options for cold weather, long-range efficiency, and premium autonomous vehicles. But they're not the only ones making battery breakthroughs.
No, Tesla's also made some significant announcements with their LFP Short Blade battery, promising 10-minute charging times and a lifespan of up to 1,000,000 miles. It's fascinating to see how different companies are approaching these challenges.
Claire, we can't talk about industry developments without addressing the ongoing supply chain challenges. What's the latest on that front?
Well, the semiconductor situation remains complex. While we're not seeing the severe shortages of 2021-2023, there are still significant challenges. Recent geopolitical tensions, particularly new US tariffs on Chinese imports, are creating new pressures on the supply chain.
And it's not just about semiconductors anymore, is it?
No, it's become much more complex. We're seeing what analysts call a perfect storm of challenges: natural disasters, ongoing pandemic effects in some regions, and cybersecurity threats are all impacting the global supply network.
According to JD Power's latest analysis, we're seeing some fascinating regional differences in how markets are responding to all these changes. Thomas King, their president of data and analytics, noted that consumers spent a record $55.8 billion on new vehicles in April alone.
That's right, Steve. And Cox Automotive's research team pointed out something really interesting. They're seeing consumers actually accelerating their purchases ahead of expected price increases. In fact, their analysts estimate an additional 139,000 sales in April, specifically due to these tariff concerns.
The European market tells a completely different story, though, doesn't it?
It does. According to Electrek's latest market report, Volkswagen has literally doubled their European EV sales compared to last year. They delivered over 150,000 EVs in the region. That's a 113% year-over-year increase. But what's really interesting is how this contrasts with their performance in China.
Speaking of China, BYD's making some aggressive moves there.
They are. Ward's Auto published an interesting analysis last week showing how BYD's Seagull model, priced under €20,000, is forcing traditional manufacturers to completely rethink their entry-level EV strategy. Volkswagen's response with their ID, Everyone concept, shows just how seriously they're taking this threat.
Now let's talk about autonomous driving developments. Manufacturing.net published an interesting piece last week about the new federal rules on self-driving car crash reporting.
Yes, and this is particularly significant for Tesla. The new regulations, which took effect on April 24th, actually favour companies with extensive data collection capabilities. As Bloomberg's transportation analyst noted in their coverage, this could give Tesla a significant advantage over their Chinese competitors.
And we're seeing real-world applications of this technology expanding, aren't we?
Absolutely. According to Reuters' latest tech report, we're looking at potentially 3.5 million autonomous vehicles on US roads by the end of this year. But what's really catching my attention is how this ties into the battery technology we discussed earlier.
You mean the connection between CATL's new battery configurations and autonomous vehicles?
Exactly. CATL's engineers specifically mentioned in their Tech Day presentation that their new dual-core architecture was designed with autonomous vehicles in mind. The redundancy in their power systems is crucial for Level 4 autonomous operation.
This brings us to something we at AutoAgentic are particularly focused on: how all these technological advances are transforming the retail experience.
Right, according to the latest JD Power Dealer Satisfaction Survey, dealerships are increasingly looking to AI to help them navigate this complexity. But there's a crucial point here about implementation.
And this is where AutoAgentic's approach really stands out, isn't it?
Exactly. Unlike some solutions that try to replace human expertise, we're focused on enhancement. McKinsey's latest automotive retail report highlighted how successful dealerships are using AI to augment their team's capabilities, not replace them.
As we wrap up today's extended episode, let's pull all these threads together. Claire, what stands out to you as the most significant developments we've covered?
You know, Steve, what's fascinating is how interconnected everything is. Looking at CATL's battery announcements from their Super Tech Day last week, we're not just seeing incremental improvements, we're seeing fundamental shifts that could reshape the entire industry.
And based on JD Power's latest market analysis, consumers are clearly responding to these changes.
They are, and in ways that might surprise people. That record $55.8 billion spending on new vehicles in April really stands out. But what's particularly interesting is how different markets are evolving. While Volkswagen's doubling their European EV sales, according to Electrek's latest report, we're seeing BYD's aggressive pricing strategy forcing traditional manufacturers to completely rethink their approach.
The supply chain story is pretty compelling too. I was looking at SP Global's latest analysis this morning, and they're highlighting how manufacturers are completely reimagining their semiconductor sourcing strategies.
And that ties directly into what we're seeing in the retail space. I was just reading Cox Automotive's dealer sentiment index for April, and it's clear that dealerships are looking for new ways to navigate this complexity.
Before we wrap up, I think it's worth emphasizing just how transformative this moment is for the industry. We're not just seeing technological evolution, we're seeing a fundamental reimagining of what mobility means.
Absolutely, Steve. And speaking of transformation, this is exactly why AutoAgentic was founded in 2024. We're helping dealerships navigate these changes while empowering their teams, not replacing them. To learn more about how AutoAgentic is helping dealerships stay competitive in a rapidly evolving market, visit autoagentic.ai. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on all these industry developments. We'll be back Thursday with more insights and analysis.
This episode of Auto Intelligence was produced by the team at AutoAgentic, where we're using AI to enhance human expertise, not replace it. Stay tuned for Thursday's episode, where we'll be diving deep into the latest developments in autonomous vehicle regulations.